Yeah, let's do a couple of documentaries. Firstly, You Don't Know Me, which is a documentary which basically attempts to reclaim Paul Verhoeven's Showgirls. Paul Verhoeven's Showgirls, which was written by Joe Esterhaus. They'd made Basic Instinct before. It was this spectacular flop, mid 90s NC-17 film. And it was just an absolute catastrophe. It was torn apart by the critics. I mean, not least because it is utterly terrible. But what the film does is it discovers a whole group of people, all of whom have become obsessed by it. Some who are obsessed by how terrible it is, some who have found some kind of trash brilliance in it, putting it in a kind of history that goes along with, like, Valley of the Dolls and Mummy Dearest. And actually, one of the sweetest things about it is that it attempts to reclaim and certainly feel sympathy for Elizabeth Berkley, who was a TV star who found herself at the center of the absolute storm of criticism that greeted Showgirls. Here's a clip.
To give a young actor like a role like Nomi, it felt like a James Dean role or a young Robert De Niro role. It's a huge role. If it was done in a real movie, that would have been a star-making role.
I've been preparing for this role my whole life, basically. 12 years, 2 to 3 hours a day dancing. So I can't exist like Nomi without dance in my life. I'm fortunate that I found something that gives me such joy and gives me such life, because I know a lot of people don't ever find that one thing. So what could be better?
I mean, the honest truth of it is there are very few films that are so bad they're bad. So bad they're good, pardon me. That's why we do the so bad it's bad TV thing. What happens in this documentary is that people talk about what it is that they find fascinating. Some are fascinated by the awfulness of it. Some are fascinated by the fact that actually in it they find some kind of kindred spirit. It's inspired books of verses. It inspired a stage show, Showgirls the musical, which is really, really remarkable. We hear from a range of different voices about the film. And in the end, the conclusion is that it is both great and terrible at the same time. And it can't be one without being the other. It's not just terrible, it's spectacularly terrible. And therefore, it's not great, but it achieves a form of greatness in its terribleness. It reminds me of Caligula, the Tinto Brass film, which was a disaster, but you keep feeling that somewhere in the middle of it there is an interesting film struggling to get out. The film also inspired Rocky Horror style, sing along, people joining in, people coming up dressed as the characters. It is a remarkable thing, and I think the best thing about the documentary is that the documentary felt really, really joyous. And I say that as somebody who thought that Showgirls was really, 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 really terrible.